Despite an illustrious career, where he has seen a mountain of success, Matt Ryan's legacy leaves a dark side, one that has the dreaded label of choker. But is that moniker fair? Is Matt Ryan a snake-bitten QB who has a cloud of darkness following him? Or perhaps is it he himself who has helped bring upon these very sad, unfortunate outcomes? Let's answer the question. Matt Ryan, unlucky or all his fault? And that's coming up right after this.
Yeah, it's February. Football is over, but hey, we have things to look forward to. Like waiting until football is back. So to pass the time, you're gonna need high quality earbuds. That's where Raycons come in. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with battery life that will last all night long, Raycons has you covered. Oh, and guess what? They are almost half the cost of other premium brands. I love Raycons for editing. The noise isolation is clutch, so I can know exactly how my video is going to sound when I go live. My favorite feature is customized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, which is crucial at the gym. And guess what? You can take crystal clear phone calls with your Raycons and not miss a thing. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/5points and get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Again, go to buyraycon.com/5points and get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Brought to you by Raycon.
Who is Matt Ryan? Coming out of Philadelphia's William Penn Charter School, Matthew Thomas Ryan was a 3-year high school starter at quarterback and a multi-sport athlete. Purdue, Georgia Tech, Temple, and UConn were all interested in Ryan, but after a visit with Boston College, he decided to become an Eagle for the next 5 years of his life. By his senior season, Ryan rose to become the consensus first quarterback on most draft boards. It made sense that Ryan would become the first overall pick to the Dolphins, but they opted instead for left tackle Jake Long. Instead, Ryan fell to the Falcons, who needed a QB after Michael Vick was traded to the federal prison system, and a coach after Bobby Petrino ghosted like a Tinder date. Ryan, along with new coach Mike Smith, represented stability. The first time he dropped back to pass in the NFL, Ryan threw a touchdown pass to Michael Jenkins. From there, it was success, mixed in with heartbreak. The Falcons finally blossomed as a dominant force 2 years later in 2010, and the 13-win Dirty Birds landed themselves a first-round bye and home field throughout the NFC playoffs. That home field advantage didn't last long, and Aaron Rodgers' wildcard Warriors knocked the Falcons out of the tournament. 2 years in a row, the Falcons would lose in the playoffs to the eventual Super Bowl champs. First at the hands of the Packers, and then in brutal fashion on the road in New York. Playoff failures aside, with a start like that, the only thing that can follow are lofty expectations. A history of choking. This video is not debating whether or not Matt Ryan's teams have blown big leads. That's simply a fact. We know the biggest chokes, but let's get a bird's eye view on a quarterback whose squads have squandered the biggest prize. Despite a lack of high-stakes football from 2013 through 2015, the Falcons blew 8 double-digit games in those 3 seasons. In 2015, they might as well have blown a full season. After starting 5-0 to kick off the Dan Quinn era in Atlanta, the Falcons lost 8 of their final 11 games to miss out on the playoffs. And they only blew exactly 1 lead during the 2016 regular season. In a battle of 2 teams well-versed in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, the Falcons outchoked the San Diego Chargers and coughed up a 17-point advantage. With a chance to put the game away, Matt Ryan threw a crippling interception that let San Diego back into the game with under 4 minutes left to go in regulation. 3 years after the calamity that is also known as Super Bowl 51, Ryan and the Falcons let 3 huge leads wither into losses. The Falcons found a way to give away leads of 20, 16, and 17 in a season where they would eventually finish with a 4-12 record. Now, let's try and figure out whose fault all this airway stuffing was. The case for unlucky. Let's tackle the big question. Did Matt Ryan choke, or was he simply a victim of circumstance? Let's use Super Bowl 51, aka 28-3, as a starting point to exonerate the Falcons quarterback. First, we need to understand just how good Ryan was in the 2016 playoffs and how thoroughly he and his offense dominated the NFC side of the bracket. The Falcons took commanding leads in their 2 NFC playoff games, 23 points against the Seahawks and 31 against the Packers, and did not let those go. As good as he had been in the regular season when he had won his first and only league MVP, Ryan had taken it up a notch when it counted most, throwing 7 touchdowns and accounting for 0 turnovers. When you look at Ryan's raw numbers from Super Bowl 51, 17 of 23 for 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 144, it seems outlandish to blame the quarterback in any way. If Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn hadn't put on a masterclass in how not to play with a lead, or if they had simply started to kneel on the football, Matt Ryan would have a ring on his finger, and we'd remember Super Bowl 51 as one of the most efficiently quarterback games in NFL history. But that wasn't the case. Despite gaining over 5 yards every time they carried the ball, Shanahan and Quinn only dialed up 18 total rushes in the game, including just 4 times in the fourth quarter. It also took one of the most insane physics-defying catches we'll ever see to propel New England on their game-tying drive at the end of regulation. We know the rest. Yes, the image of Matt Ryan walking head down off the field will forever be burned into our collective memory, but he didn't lose them that game. Additionally, how much blame can you put on a QB who does his job and builds a lead only to have his defense squander it? In his career, Matt Ryan's defenses ranked an average of 23.2. His offenses, yes, led by him, 9.2. He never had a stout defense in Atlanta, and that is not his fault. The case for it being his fault. Did Matt Ryan choke away a ring, or maybe even 2? To answer this question, we're going to need to start in the 2012 playoffs, where the Falcons were on the brink of reaching the Super Bowl. Ultimately, Atlanta let a trip to New Orleans slip through its fingers, but there were signs of cracking before that. In their first game, a divisional round victory over the Seattle Seahawks, there's one prevailing memory: Matt Ryan's game-winning drive. While it was an impressive rally down 1 point with 30 seconds left in regulation, it was a correction for his earlier mistakes. Despite the late heroics, the Falcons had squandered a 20-point halftime lead, and Matt Ryan's 2 picks greatly contributed to the blowing of that lead. Offensive turnovers are not the defense's fault, and Ryan put them in bad positions both times. A week later in the NFC title game, a 17-point lead evaporated against the 49ers. Ryan threw 3 touchdowns, but again committed 2 untimely turnovers that helped flip the momentum in San Francisco's favor. Out of those 4 turnovers, Ryan committed 3 of them in the second half, permitting the Seahawks and later the 49ers to find their way back into the game. The Niners game is especially egregious when you consider that San Francisco's offense wasn't even humming in the second half. In back-to-back second half drives, the Niners missed a field goal and fumbled the ball away. Gifted a golden opportunity to put the game on ice, Ryan countered with a fumble of his own and later a punt. With the trip to the big game on the line, that's all he could muster. Okay, now let's fast forward to when he did actually get to the Super Bowl. We can place as much blame as we want at the feet of Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan, but Matt Ryan wasn't just an innocent bystander. With a massive lead in his back pocket, Ryan inexplicably snapped the ball with far too much time remaining on the play clock. He fumbled in a key spot, and he took a devastating sack that pushed the Falcons out of range for a field goal that would have made them world champions. Ryan was also the captain of the offense, and as a second-year student in the Shanahan scheme, he could have easily audibled into safer clock-churning plays. 7 years later, after Ryan had been traded to the Colts, his team suffered the worst collapse in history. 33 points, beating out the 92 Oilers by a point in a regular season loss to the Vikings. In stacking the 33-point cushion, Ryan hardly contributed. He threw just 1 touchdown, a 1-yarder to Deion Jackson that made it 17-0. Indy scored a touchdown via special teams and another by way of interception. It was truly a 3-phase effort. With the lead beginning to evaporate, his team just needed 1 drive to quell the Vikes' rebellion, and Ryan was unable to deliver. Or they needed to just run the ball, all things a veteran QB was in control of. This was different from his other collapses, like he was too numb to take any chances, and his indifference cost his team all the same. He didn't choke, but he never took a bite. The verdict: Matt Ryan will be a Hall of Famer. He likely won't get in on his first ballot, but he deserves recognition for his accolades, his gaudy numbers, and the fact that he resurrected a football team that had lost its heart and soul in the mid-2000s. Things like that matter, and Ryan rejuvenated an entire city, even if it didn't culminate in a title. There's no ignoring that he left a ring or even two on the table. While he never directly threw a big playoff game away, he contributed to his team's losing with a few untimely turnovers and failed to capitalize on opportunities to win the game. Is Matt Ryan unlucky, or was it all his fault? The answer is yes.
Numbers 5 can carry in their win.